Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of videos about games and the people who played them. And now, here are your hosts, Tom and Holly Vasel.
Welcome to the Dice Tower. I'm Tom Vasel, and this is my co-host, Holly. And today we're going to do something different. I thought we would show you my game collection. Now, I don't do this to brag or to show off, although, I mean, honestly, I am kind of proud of the game collection. But I do get rid of games very quickly. I don't hang on to them forever. I only keep the games that I really like or games that I think people will play. I just want to show you a little bit of the collection, what I keep, why I keep it, and how I store it. So, here we go. I live in two houses that are connected to each other, and in the smaller house, which is our guest house for visiting missionaries and other people come to visit us, I have one room designated as the game room. Now, when people come to visit, it's more of a storeroom. All kinds of other things are stored in here during that time. But for the most part, I can keep most of my games in here. And as you can see, I have it pretty well full of games on about 14 different shelves throughout the room. These two shelves work hand in hand together. For one thing, they're where I put all my card games. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. But it's also where my review games go. If you look right here in the middle of this shelf, here you can see a pile of games. Now this shelf is these bottom shelves, and this one's empty, but this is where new copies of games come in. These are games that I have not played, and therefore I need to play them so that I can review them. If you just slide over here, then go down one, you can see all the pitch card games there. These are games that I have played and need to be reviewed. So I will be reviewing these in a couple days, and then that shelf will be empty. And then once I get around to playing these move back down to this shelf, and the cycle repeats itself. Although there have been times where the whole bookcase can be filled, but here on the bottom I just have some games that I like playing, and this is a good spot to put them. A majority of my games are kept on what we call it the wall of games. And really when I store games, I do that not by category much. Sometimes I try to put the same publisher together, but it's basically on box size and trying to fit as many games in one area as I can. And so you can see on this large shelf, I basically am just it's packed full. There's very rarely holes in this shelf unless I pull the games to play them. When a game leaves here, I try to find another game that will fit in the same spot. My favorite kind of boxes are the big square boxes that many companies are producing these days. And I try to put my favorite ones here in prominence in the middle of my collection. And oddly enough, it seems that that size box is usually my favorite. And I like when companies make all their games in the same size. And this brings up a point here. Some people store their boxes vertically and others horizontally. I do whatever seems to fit the shelf the best here. As you can see, I have the Fantasy Flight Silver Line face up like that. And then the flat, I have the Gold Saber games. And I just like it when all the games fit together well, as you can see from this picture. On the bottom there, you can see my giant games, the Tide of Iron, the Fantasy Flight Coffin Box series. I guess they're just the huge games, and I'm not sure how much I'm going to be able to fit there if they keep coming out with large ones. This is a box that usually it seems like Rio Grande makes most of their games in this size, although Mayfair and a few other game companies have. And I like the bookshelves that I have, these fit perfectly on them, and I like how everything goes together. I used to color code them, then I realized that was getting a bit obsessive. And you can see all over my shelf I have games, and the types are very strange, but they all seem to fit together. And then on top of the shelves, piled high to the ceiling, or as high as I'm willing to go to the ceiling, I have all different games stacked. These are games usually that don't fit on the shelf somewhere else. The boxes are too big. Now I mentioned that I would come back to these card games, and I found this shelf one time on the side of the road basically. It looks like a display shelf for a store, and that's fine by me because it just really works well at displaying some of my small card games. And you can see that I keep most of my card games on this, and a few of them in those plastic boxes. Fortunately, it seems like these boxes are very difficult to find these days, but I'm glad I bought about 30 of them when I got the chance. Basically, inside the box, there's room for 3 different decks of cards, so in some of them I actually have 3 card games right next to each other. Here I have my Battleground Fantasy Warfare decks. I have one for each army, and I am able to keep dice and cards, and being able to pull the cards out and put different things in and snap them, and then I print labels on them, and I'm just really impressed with these. Plan I used to make these. It doesn't look like they do any longer, but they're my favorite storage box that I have. Okay, this looks like a mess, and it kind of is a mess because I don't have this organized right now. These are all those games which I just have a hard time fitting their boxes anywhere else. Some of them actually have boxes which are very similar to others, like the Time's Up and the Apples to Apples boxes, but for the most part, these are games that just have odd-shaped boxes. And coincidentally, most of them are also party games. I don't know what it is, but party games just don't like to come in normal boxes. I have a few of the old games on their bottom. You can see the old 1950 Life. Up in the one corner, you can see some books about games, and there's a little bit more around here, and my wooden games up there. And so that's basically the shelf where you go when you don't fit anywhere else. This is not as messy as that other shelf, but it's still kind of a place where games go when I don't fit on the main wall. But these are games that I like quite a bit, and maybe I'm planning to play them soon. They're unusual box sizes, but they're played often enough. You see at the top there, my whole Descent collection, and that gets pulled off the shelf a lot. It would be remiss of me not to talk about my kids' games, and I have 2 shelves, and probably more soon, that are dedicated to just the kids' games. I put them by themselves so my kids know where they are. You can tell a lot of them are from Haba because all their boxes are in yellow, and I'm not sure what prompts their design, settings on that, but there's plenty of other colors amongst the games, and there's just piles of them. And while I get rid of a lot of my own games because I'm not a big fan of many of them, I very rarely get rid of the kids' games because invariably one of my kids enjoys the game quite a bit, and I'm glad to have piles of these. We have a couple beds in the guest house. This is one that we don't use very often, and it's covered with games. Now, it's always covered with games, and the games disappear slowly, and this is one of the things. I'm always trying to get rid of games in my collection. I'm always trying to cull it to only the best games. And so the first thing I did when I put games on this bed was I put games that I absolutely did not like. Well, now there's games that I like, but I just don't play often enough, and so they've hit it. Or, like here's Cosmic Encounter, because I got a new version of it. So what to do with these games here? Well, I suppose if I lived in America, I could sell them for a profit, but that's just not going to happen here because, well, the shipping is too expensive. So they kind of just sit here in the bed, and whenever someone comes and visits me, they are gifted with a new game or more. They can pretty much take whatever they want. So, and every once in a while I take some of them back with me to America when I travel there, but it's still not very cost effective. So it's almost more expensive to get rid of the games. I hate to throw them away, even if I dislike the games, but, have to conserve space. So this is the sad bed of forgotten games. When I am done reviewing a game or looking at a game and I give it to Melody or Amy and say, it goes in the bed, that means we won't see it again. About once a month I go through the games, see which one should be tossed, see what room we have for new games. Most people aren't going to have that constant influx of games coming in and out, but I think it's important I don't want to be a collector just to have games to have them. These games behind me are games I'm willing to play. If I'm not, they need to be gone. And maybe another time we'll show you parts of the room that I didn't show you every part of it because I'm always looking for new game things. Like today, I was out and I got myself a bell, to use in different games. I found glue that I'll probably use to fix pieces and labels. And so I'm always looking for ways to make the collection look better. Well, there you go. There's our collection, the Dice Tower collection. You might disagree with how I store it. You might want to store it your own way. But I just thought I would show it to you so you know how we get the games we play. And we have a lot of fun. And I'll show you us playing the games in the future. But that's enough for today. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel. And we'll see you guys next time.
See you next time. See you next time.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.